Okay. Okay, so let's start the lecture, guys. So today we are going to cover file input output in C. I think this is like the 20th, yeah, the 22nd chapter of your book. This chapter is the chapter says it's on input output, but mostly they cover file input output. So yeah, so I'll be covering some parts of this chapter, and you can go through this chapter after the lecture or for your exams as well. I'll not be covering everything that is there in the chapter, but most of the important concepts. Okay, so yeah, let me just do this. Let me write a new program. Right. Okay, let's just do the simple thing. We always start with the simplest program, right? So by now you guys know what is going to happen. So yeah. Okay, so when you run this program, so what happens? You see a hello world, right? So two important things are happening here. First, your program is doing a printf, and second, your program is printing it out to the terminal, right? So in most programming environments, your devices are treated as files, as just simple files. What do I mean by devices and what do I mean by files? Devices are anything connected to your computer or inside your computer. For example, your hard disk is a device, your monitor is a device, your keyboard is a device. What kind of device is your monitor? Tell me that. Is it an input or output device?
Output.
It's an output device, exactly. We have not been taught malloc yet. I'll cover it in the end of the class when I cover DMA. Just give me some time till I finish this thing. Yeah, so the monitor is an output device. Your keyboard is an input device. Your hard disk is what? What is your hard disk? Anything, man. I mean, what could be it? Tell me, what could be it? It's a storage device, but then what do you do there? You store things and you retrieve things, right? So it's both an input-output device, isn't it? Because you can store your files and you can also read the files there from there, right? So hard disk is an input-output device. It's an I/O device. So the point is, whatever devices are connected to your computer, you can categorize them as an input or an output device or both. And to talk with these devices, right? Talk with these devices, we need the concept of a file. Everything happens through this concept called files. Now, I just interacted when I did a.out. What did I do? I interacted with the output device, right? And I printed out something on the output. That's my monitor. So that means I have interacted with an output file. I mean, I have interacted with the output device through a file. What is exactly a file? So what is exactly a file? So how to put it? So you could think of file as whatever devices you have, right, on your computer. What your operating system does is it gives each device a unique number or a unique ID. So whenever I want to talk with a particular device or I want to read from a particular device, I have to use that number. I have to use that number to talk with the device. And only then I would be able to interact with it. So that number, right, attached to that device, that's called you could say a file ID or a file pointer, whatever. So just remember that is called a file ID or a file pointer. And through that ID, we interact with the device. So whenever you are dealing with files, you need that file ID. Without that file ID, you cannot identify the device. And once you have that file ID with you, All that you have to do is you have to whatever functions you are using, you could put that ID inside those functions, and then you could talk with the device. I will give you a very I will show you what I mean here in the program. Okay, so we all know, we have seen printf, right? But there is one more. So yeah, so printf. So in the function printf, you don't see any ID written here, right? You just see the string hello world. You don't see any file ID, because I just spoke about the output device having a file ID, and only then you can talk with the output device. But then printf is not using any ID. You don't see any number here, right? Why don't you see any number? Because printf knows that it's going to write to the output device by default. So that's why that ID, right? That ID is there inside it. We don't have to explicitly write it. And the ID, and that is the number. That is the number for the output, your number for your monitor. The ID number is a very specific number. It does not change basically. So that's why printf knows what is its value, and then it puts that value internally in its implementation. You don't have to put that number as when you call printf, right? But there is one more function called fprintf now. Now I am coming to files. What does fprintf do? Fprintf allows to send the output of printf to any device you want, any file you want. This is what the function fprintf does. Remember that, guys. Printf is the normal printf. It just goes, yeah, this is predefined in stdio, exactly. So everything that I will be discussing today is inside stdio. You don't need any other header file for the discussions that we will be doing today. It's standard input output. So all the file input outputs, everything is there in stdio, the header file. Yes. So when I have a fprintf, so fprintf says, F stands for file printf, remember. So now we have to explicitly give it a file ID for it to write to that particular file, which will be a device, obviously. So then if you use fprintf, you have to explicitly say which device are you going to write it to. So we are going to write it to the standard output device, right? Which is your monitor. So what is the number corresponding to that? This is it. So there is a, you could say there is a macro for this. This is the macro, stdout. This is a number basically. I mean, but it has a special name. So we just have a special name for it. Actually, this entire thing is a number. But then since it's in a form of a macro, which is inside stdio.h, so we just write it out like this. So now when I say this, right, when I say stdout, then what happens is whatever hello world you have written, the string, that will go to stdout. That is your standard output, which is the file ID linked to your monitor or your output device. Now you will get the same output. Is this point clear, guys? See, now we are doing something that printf does implicitly. Printf puts this stdout internally inside its implementation. But here, since we are using fprintf, which is a very general printf, I will come to the fprintf usage after this. But then fprintf is this general function which you can use to write to any file, not only standard output. That's why you have to explicitly say, I want to write it to standard output. So that's why you have to say stdout. Now you would ask me, what the hell is this stdout, right? Is it a number? Is it a what? Is it a string? So let us see what is stdout actually. I think it's a number. Let us see what it is. I think it's a very big number. I mean, it's a number basically. So yeah, so stdout is a number. But then why am I able to write it at stdout? Because it is defined as a you could say as a macro inside stdout. That's why. Okay, so that's stdout. Now similar to stdout, that is standard output, we have something called standard input. So what is standard input? I think I don't know why it's changing, but then yeah, you don't have to worry about the number of stdout. Just remember it's an ID for the standard input device, standard output device. That's all. I don't know why the value is changing. Just remember it's a ID for your output device. through which the printf prints it on your screen. Good. So yeah. So now since we have an std out, std out, we should have a standard input also, right? So what is a standard input? Standard input is your keyboard. So then let's say, yeah. No, actually it's not changing. I mean, I think it doesn't change. std out has this value of 1 and 0. You could actually search it here. You could search it online. What is the value of std out? I mean, what is the ID for std out? You will get a value. I think it's some value, which I don't know. And you don't have to know that value. I mean, no one is going to ask you what is the value of std out. It's just an ID for your input device, ID, identifier. Yeah. Okay, so let's come to std standard input now. What is your standard input? Most of the time, your standard input is your keyboard. Always, in fact, always. What the print? Yes, exactly. If you have a printer ID, you could actually print it to a printer, but then you have to get the printer ID somehow. I mean, it has to come through a device driver, device file. I mean, it's not. I mean, to get to that ID for printer, it's not that simple. I mean, you have to write some functions to get to that ID, wherein you could write it to the printer. These are called device files, actually. Okay, on a very side note, have you guys ever seen this kind of directory in your Unix system, in your Linux system? /dev directory. Has anyone seen this /dev? Say yes, no. Okay, I think you guys might have not seen it because this is a very low level thing. Okay, let me just I will just take 5 minutes to do this. I will not waste time today. See, I am inside a directory called /dev. This directory is inside all Linux distributions. This is called /dev directory. Just remember this guy, /dev. So when I do an ls on this directory, what do I see? See, I see these yellow, I see these yellow files, right? So what are these yellow files? See, somewhere you would see a USB. I think you would see an USB. I think you will see an SDA. Let's go to input. See, when you go to input, what do you see here? Do you see a mouse 0 here? Mouse. You guys see it, right? Mouse 0. So what is happening is each of your, now when I discuss files, then you'll get to know this, better. So everything that is connected to your computer, right? It's connected as a device. This device talks with your computer through a file, which is called a device file. So the file for a mouse is this file, mouse, mouse. So whenever your computer wants to interact with the mouse, it will operate with this file called mouse. And this file would have an ID, a specific identifier. So if I want to receive something from like whenever I do a mouse click, something would be updated in this file, which would be read by my computer, and then it will be displayed on the screen, as in the mouse pointer will move. So this is the file which has an associated ID through which my computer interacts with the mouse. Similarly, this /dev directory has all the devices which are connected to your computer, and then through those device files, you interact with the respective device. See, there is this std out also. See, do you see this? stdin and std out. These things are also there in your device. ID is just the number for that file, and then path is actually where in your file system that particular device file corresponding to the device is located. Access what? No, you are. If I am clicking a mouse, am I interacting with a terminal? No, right? Yeah, if you want to go to the device files, you have to use the terminal for that. No, it's not necessary, right? If you have a GUI, then you can go to the / directory and then go through it. You don't need a terminal for that. You can visit these files. But then you cannot do much with these files because these files are just for your, these files are for your operating system to interact with. You don't do anything with these files. These files are standard files. These are called device files. Remember this word, device files. Yeah, because you won't be able to see it there. You won't be able to see anything here. So only when something happens, I guess the file, see there, you cannot open this file. I mean, if I go to mouse, see there is nothing here because this file is not, I mean, it's not a viewable file, man. It's a device file. So your OS interacts with this file. So you cannot see any way. I mean, how do you represent a mouse click in a file? You can't, right? Something weird is happening there. So that weirdness is handled by the operating system. You don't have to see it. Yeah, something else. So don't worry about that. So just remember this concept that in your inside your systems, Linux systems, there are device files through which the devices interact with your system, and each of these device files have a unique ID. Once you get hold of that ID, you can interact with that with that device by using file input output. Okay. So let's go back to the discussion. This discussion is not relevant to today's class anyways. It's a digression. Okay, so similar to std-out, there is something called standard input, which is stdin, standard input. So till now in scanf, what we were using just percentile and num, right? Because again, scanf has the standard input implicit inside it. We don't have to explicitly write it. But there is something called again fscanf. So fscanf allows you to read data from any file, not necessarily an standard input. Is this clear? Similar to fprintf, right? Fprintf allows you to write your output to any file. Similarly, fscanf allows you to read your input from any file. So what do you have to pass to scanf? Similarly, similar to std-out, you have to say stdin. So this is called a standard input. And again, this is a specific number connected to your keyboard. Yeah, so if you run this is what will happen. It will ask me for a number, that's it. Because now I'm reading it from the standard input. Is this concept clear, guys, of std-out and std-in, which are the standard input output IDs for your monitor and keyboard? Any questions here? You need to understand this because then only you will understand the other file functions. Okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
So what if we write std-out in fscanf?
Okay, if you write standard out in fscanf. Okay, so you are trying to read something from the monitor. Is that possible? Let's see. What does this logically mean? This logically means you are trying to read an input from an output device. It works. It works. But then do you see this? It doesn't halt for input.
Okay.
Let us see one thing. That's a very good suggestion. Let's see what it read actually. It read something, right? So let's see what it read from the monitor. If you use std-out, that means it just read something from the monitor. Let's see what it read by just printing the value. See, it read some garbage, I think. See, I'm getting some number here. Okay, good. Let's initialize number. I think it will not be initialized. Sorry, I think nothing would go inside num, I guess. Yeah, it's read 0. I mean, yeah. So nothing happened here. See, somehow this is a very, logically it's wrong, but then your program will compile fine. It's
Sir,
just, yes, tell me.
can we check like m is equal to fscanf, and if m is 0, then it is not reading anything.
Sorry.
That we write m is equal to some m is equal to fscanf. If m is equal to 0, then it is not reading anything. We'll know
Okay,
that.
good. So you guys remember a discussion on fscanf? Good. I mean, sorry, the scanf discussions you remember. Okay, sorry. No, it did not read anything. It's at a -1. So yeah, so this is what happens with fscanf. If you are seeing a -1, that means it did not work properly, right? So let us see what is if it would have worked properly, what would have been the value of m? I don't know. Let's see. First, let's put stdin and let's see what is the value of m in that case. If it works properly, right? Okay, so if it works properly, it's 1. So if it does not work properly, similar to scanf, if you remember, right? Scanf gave a 0 or 1, right? If it worked properly, it gave a 0. Sorry, it gave a 1. And if it was not able to read anything from the buffer, it gave a 0. fscanf gives a -1 if it is not able to read anything from that whatever pointer you have given it. I mean, whatever ID you have given it. Right? So that's why we see a -1 here when you use stdout. Okay.
So then what is the use of explicitly writing stdout and stdin?
There is no use, basically. There's no use. I mean, I'm just telling you these are the 2 pointers. I mean, because this falls in the whole. I mean, it falls in the whole concept of files, right? So these are two very special file IDs, right? So these are special file IDs. I'm just telling you like for completeness. But then you can't do much out of this stdout and stdin. You just remember it for a fact, yeah. So this is clear, right? If I use stdout in here, so what will happen is nothing. fscanf won't read anything, and then there's a -1. That's why it will return a -1. If it would have been successful, it would have returned a positive value, positive 1. Good. Okay, since this is clear now, fscanf and fprintf. So let's do something interesting now. No more questions here, right? Okay, so now, so till now, what we did was we had these 2 basic files, right? stdout and stdin, and we were not able to do much. I mean, all that you are every time doing is writing it down on the monitor, and then all that you do you are reading it from the keyboard. But now we want to change this. We want to create a file now, and we want to use that file for printf, for fprintf, right? So this is the way you create a file. Just see whatever I'm texting. So let's say, let's name the file. Okay. So this line here, what does it do? This line creates a file in my hard disk called myfile.txt. It's similar to going to your, it's similar to going to a folder in your system and then right clicking and say create new file. This particular thing does a similar operation. It creates a new file called myfile.txt. That's why you can name it anything actually. I mean, I just happen to name it myfile.txt. What does this say here? This W says, what is it that you want to do with this file? So this is called a mode. This is the mode of the file, as in what do you want this file to do? Do you want to write to the file? Do you want to read from the file? Do you want to do both a read write? Right? So this is called, the second argument is called a mode. So how many modes are there? There are basically 3 modes. The first one is called W, another is called R, and another is called A. So W stands for write mode. That is, I want to only write to this file. This is called read mode, and this is called append mode. So the write says only write, read says read from this file, append says, what does append say? I will come to that later on. What does append do? Right? So, but let's say you want to do a read and write both on this file. I mean, you might not always be happy with write, right? So you might want to do a read as well. So in that case, you just say RW. So RW would do a read as well as a write on the file. So this function called fopen creates a file with a write read mode on. And then this value FP, right? This value is equivalent to std out now. Now you get a unique ID for this file, which is on the hard disk. Now you are interacting with a very specific file on the hard disk. And what is the ID for that file to interact for you, for your program to interact with? That is FP now. Okay. So if you have understood fprintf, all that I have to do is replace std out with FP. And let's see what happens. Oh, sorry, I have to, yeah. Okay, what happened here? Okay, I get it. See, I see a my file, right? The moment that okay, let me do one thing first. Let me remove my file from here, right? See, there is no my file here now in this directory. Do you see this, right? There is no file called my file if you see the rightmost column. But then if I run this program, then you see there is a new file created called myfile.txt. And then when you go inside my file, what will happen is you will see a hello world. Is this point clear? I will come to why I got a segmentation fault now. Did you understand this? It's very basic, guys. It's very, very simple. So just see this program once. So fopen, what did you do? You created a file called myfile, and then you say W that's you want to write to the file, and then you say this is the syntax for saying file. This file is the keyword, remember, in C. That's why it's in green. And then FP is your ID corresponding to that file. Yeah, I mean, VI is a text. I mean, how do you write? How do you use Notepad? You say Notepad and with the name, right? So there, VI is a text editor. Yeah, why won't it work? It will work. See, one important thing, guys. So when I use myfile.txt, I did not give any paths to this file. As in, I did not say where in my hard disk this file is going to be loaded, right? Where in this my hard disk this file is going to be created. When I just write myfile.txt, what happens is it will be created in the directory in which I am running this program. Remember that. Wherever in whichever directory I am, if I run this program, this file will be created there. But then if I want to give it a very specific directory, I have to put the directory path here. For example, I have to put it something like this. I have to put my path here, home. Let me do this. Yeah, so if I do this, right, home, my name, and then myfile.txt, then this will go to this directory, home, my name, and then myfile.txt. It will not belong in the same directory in which you're running the file. So you can actually give a full path here and that file will be created there. But for our example, we are just using the same directory. No, why will, yeah. So every time if you want to operate, that's what my point was, right? When you use printf by default operates with stdout. There is no, printf does not work with any other function. I mean, any other files. But fprintf works with any file. So to work with any file, you have to use fprintf, not printf. Printf is explicit. Printf is very, I mean, it's only used for standard output. Fprintf is used for any generic file. Okay. Okay. So now, why was I getting a segmentation fault here when I used? Yeah. So okay. Okay. So let me just show you one thing now. Okay. So I have set the read mode now. Remember, guys, I have set the read mode on this file first. So let's see if I open a file in read mode, will I be able to write to that file? right? So that's what I'm doing now. Instead of the write, I just say read, and then I'm trying to do a write on that file, right, using fprintf. So let me see if GCC allows this. Okay, there is no error, but okay. So let's do one thing. Let me, what is it? F1. Okay, let me just change this string now. Presently, myfile.txt contains this, right? Hello world. So let's see if it gets updated. It does not get updated. So basically, there was no error which happened here. I mean, because of this, because you opened the write mode, right? But you opened the file in read mode. But then what happened was fprintf was not successful in writing. So how do you verify this? Tell me guys fast, how do you verify if fprintf was successful or not? Guys, don't sleep on me, man. Come on, respond. Let's see what happens here. See, I get a -1. Why do I get a -1? Because again, the same thing. If fprintf did not work properly, it gave you a -1 value. Why it did not work properly? Because you have set a read mode here, right? And you're trying to do a write. That's the first thing. Okay. So yeah. So in the next, if a practical exam happens, maybe you have to use files, guys. So try to pay attention to today's lecture. Okay. So this is one example which I showed, in which if you open in a read mode, you cannot do a write. Now let me delete the file first, and then if I try to run the program, let's see what happens. So what to say? See. So what is happening here is I have deleted the file called myfile.txt. There is no file there called myfile. I just deleted it, and I'm trying to read from that file now. So I'm trying to read from a file which does not exist. So let's say what happens. Let's see what happens in this case. See, I get a segmentation fault. Why am I getting a segmentation fault? I'm getting a segmentation fault because I'm trying to read a file which does not exist. I'm trying to access a file that does not exist. So that's why I get a segmentation fault. And that's why I got a segmentation fault when I was using a read with a write. The file has to be there, right? So now let's say I create the file. Let's say I have created the file called myfile.txt. Yeah, so there is a file now, myfile.txt. Let's see if it works. I don't know if it will work or not. See, now it works. Now there is no segmentation fault. Because this file exists, right, in my directory. I've created this file and then I ran the program. That's why that particular call here is successful. Okay. So is this syntax and semantics clear for fopen? So this is called the fopen function, guys. Fopen, which lets you open a file for reading, writing, or for appending. If you want to do both a read and write on that file, how should you do that? You can just say either you say rw, or you can just say r plus. So what does plus do? Plus says that you can do a write as well along with the read. So plus is a shorthand for WR. So WR, that is write read, or R plus is the same thing, that is read as well as write. Yes, can we print what is written in my file? I'll come to that now. So I'm just discussing fprintf now. I'll come to that. Okay, so let me cover the append mode now. Yeah. So remember one thing, guys. So yeah, so let's say I ran this program. It runs and I see a hello. And whenever I go to my file, I see a hello myself now. Why am I seeing a hello myself? Because it got written correctly. Every time that I run my program, I should be seeing, I am writing multiple hello myself, right? The string into the file. So I should have seen multiple lines, right? Because I have accessed this file multiple times to do multiple writes. But why am I seeing only one line every time? So what happens is the previous line just gets overwritten. It's similar to you open the file, new file, and then you create, and then you just write a new line there. New line as in you just write the new string there. So the previous data is completely gone from that file. But you don't want this to happen, right? Maybe your file has important data, you are updating important data in your file, and you want the previous data to be there. You don't want that previous data to just go away, right? So for that, what do? You use that append mode. So now if I use the append mode, let's see what happens. If I say RA plus, I don't know if it is going to work or not. So I think you have to only open it in append mode. Wait. Yeah, what is it? F1. Okay. So I think you only have to use it in append mode. So let us use append mode. See, when I am using the append mode, what happens is the previous data is there and the new data is just getting added to the file. So this is the importance of an append mode. Right? No, it's not. What does this file do? What does this function do? So are you guys clear on the append mode? It's quite simple. For append, you do a write, but then you don't do a fresh write. You do a write on whatever data is there in the file already. You don't delete the entire thing and do a fresh write. Yes, W mode clears everything and writes whatever you are writing new to the file. Yeah, in the program. So fopen, all fopen does is it gives you a handle to the file in the form of this ID, that is FP, the file pointer. This is also called the file pointer. Remember that, guys. FP, file pointer. So it gives you a handle to the file, but it does not say anything as in what you want to do with the file. You may want to do a read on the file, and you may want to write on the file. These are two different operations, right? fopen is just giving you access to the file. With that access, you can do a read, you can do a write. It depends on what kind of program have you written. So that's why by default, fopen does not give you the read permission. It just gives you permission to access that file. What operation you want to do, you have to say it in the mode here, which can be read, write, and append mode. Okay, now when you guys were asking me that why was I getting a random value every time? But this is a very, I mean, do you guys remember that question? Someone was asking me that for std out, why was I getting a random value? Do you guys remember that question? Yes, so let's see what is there in FP now. I mean, I want to see what is inside FP. I mean, I got an FP, right? File pointer, fine. But what is it actually? I want to just print it out. What is it? Let's see. Even here, I'm getting a random value. Why? Okay, for that, I guess I have to explain. Yeah, I mean, just briefly, what it means is whenever you do an fopen, right? So what happens is your file gets a memory object in your program's running memory. What do you mean by running object? You could think it of as a message box. You guys know mailboxes, right? What are mailboxes? Mailboxes are small boxes which are placed outside people's houses. So whenever, if I want to speak with someone, I just go, I mean, if I want to deliver him a letter, what do? I go there and put it on the mailbox, right? And then the person later comes out and reads it from the mailbox. If he wants to do something, he writes to the mailbox and then I get it. And then the postman reads it and gets it and then sends it to the whoever he wants to talk with. So similar to that, I mean, similarly, using that concept, for every file, a small mailbox kind of thing, kind of data structure is created in your program's memory. So whenever you interact with the file, the interactions go through that mailbox. Actually, whenever you're writing to the file, you are not like writing to that file directly. You are writing to that mailbox or the buffer. Yeah, buffer is the correct word. So you're writing to the buffer, and from the buffer, the data goes to the file, to the actual hardware file. I mean, as in it may be a hard disk file, or it might be a monitor or a keyboard, right? So, and yeah, for the keyboard, we already know that there is a buffer for the keyboard, isn't it? The keyboard buffer, which you have discussed at length before. So the FP, that is the file pointer, gives you the address of that buffer. That's it. It gives you the address of that buffer in memory, which talks with your file. That's why whenever you are running std out every time, I mean, your buffer for std out, I mean, for your key monitor, maybe it does not necessarily have to be located in the same memory always, right? In your program's running memory, it might have been loaded in different places, that buffer. So that's why that pointer is like, it's like an address of that buffer, which is unique, right? Because no two things can have the same address. This is actually what it stores, this particular value called FP. It stores the address of the buffer, which is interacting with the actual file on the hard disk. I think this is clear now, yeah. Okay, so now when someone is asking me that now I want to read that thing that is stored in my file, right? So what do I do for that? What is the mode that I should use here? Tell me now. Oh yeah, so there are a lot of hello myself. So now I want to read, right? I want to read from that file. I just use a write, that's all. Yeah, I just use the read. And what do I do here? Tell me, instead of scanf, what do I do? Instead of printf, what do I do? Now I want to read lines from my file. What do I do? Yes, fscanf. Fscanf on what? What do I do when I want to read strings from the keyboard? What do I do? See, I see a hello. Right? That means I read it from the file. But why do I see a hello? Again, the same problem as with scanf, right? It ends with the first space. See, this line here, this line, you could think of this line as a simple scanf, which is trying to read a string from the keyboard. That's it. You could think of scanf, which is trying to read data from the keyboard. But instead of the keyboard here, the data is not coming from the keyboard. The data is coming from the file, which has this data. So that's why you just give the file pointer here. So you could, to think logically, all that you have to think about is, what if I would have typed these letters on my keyboard? What if I would have typed these values on my keyboard? What would the scanf read? That's all that you have to think about. Right, so if I would have entered all these things on my terminal, right, when the scanf wanted input from me in the form of a string, if I type all these things, what would have happened? Scanf would have only read the first hello, because after the space it terminates. So it's as simple as that. Whatever things you did with scanf and printf, you could do with fscanf and fprintf, and the similar things apply. That's all. The formatting, everything applies. All that, yeah, it would obviously, I mean, that's why I told you, if you open the file and see, and if you think, how would have scanf behaved if I would have entered the same data through the keyboard? Scanf would have skipped the space, right, and just printed whatever was there before the space. Similar behavior with the file also. It's just that input is not coming from the keyboard, it's coming from the file. That's the only difference. Apart from that, the way it behaves with the input is the same. It's not going to change. That's why you could have a list of numbers. In fact, if you could have a long list of numbers, and scanf would just read those list of numbers. Yes, let's see how you use fgets. So tell me, what was the syntax of fgets, guys? I have not used it actually. I don't remember it. Can someone reply? I think fgets is here. Let's see it quickly.
Sir, I have put it in the chat.
Yeah, that is gets. Okay, fine. Good. Okay, good. You see the stdi in red there, right? So instead of stdi, you just have to replace it with fp. What is str? Yes, you can use this. I mean, whatever works with scanf will work with fscanf also. There is no difference apart from the file pointer thing.
str is the name, sir.
str is the name of the array, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us do this. What is 20?
20 is just random size, sir.
So let us put it as 20 only. Let's see what happens now.
I guess it does not let you enter more than 20 characters.
Okay, it read 20, it read 20 characters from the file. Do you see this? So if I increase it more, let's say I make it 50. See, it read more. You guys see what is happening here? You guys see this, right? What is fgets allowing you to do? Fgets is allowing you to read this size string, right? But then gets, what did gets do? Gets asks you to read it from the standard input, and fgets, all the fgets does is asks you to read it from the file. That's it. What does 50 tells you? 50 tells you how many character length, how many size string, how big a string you should read. Since I have more than 50 characters on my file, that's why I am fine. I can read more. But let's make it 500 and see what happens. What if I give more? Actually, there aren't that many characters in the file, but I'm asking that many things to be read. Let's see what happens in that case. Okay, it reads the entire file. Do you see this now? It reads the whatever is there. I mean, how much is there it reads, but then since it could not read the entire 500 because there are not 500 characters there, so it just terminates and then it just gives you whatever it read. So I just read the entire file here. I'll come to that, not till backslash, and there is something else. There is one concept here. But then this is the way actually in fgets, what you can do is you can read the entire file by just putting a very big value. You can simply do this. You can say fgets, use an array, and then just say very big value to read the entire file. It's called end of file. I'll come to what is end of file later on. Wait. Okay. I think this is clear. So similar to fgets, there is something called, I think, fputs also. So fputs, what does it do? If it puts a string onto the file. So fputs may, again, you have to use the file pointer.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, what will happen if we don't use 500? We just use array, comma, fp.
That's a wrong syntax, man. I mean, this function needs 3 parameters, right? 3 arguments. If you use 2 arguments, it's not even going to compile. See, it's not going to compile, right? Fgets, what is the syntax of gets, man? I mean, just read about the syntax, right? You have to give it a number, how many characters you want to read.
Sir, leave that space blank, like 2 commas.
This is not allowed, man. Who told you that this is allowed? This is a wrong syntax.
Sir, fgets is different from gets. Fgets has 3, gets has only 1.
But someone told me gets is. But someone told me that I asked you guys to look into the syntax, right? He gave me 3 parameters here.
Yes, sir. Fgets has 3, gets has only 1.
Sir, I was about to type fgets, sir. Just f got away. That's it.
Okay, so yeah, so see, you guys are confusing me here. So if you use fgets, So you need 3 parameters that's agreeable, because you need to say array, then length, as in how many characters you want to read, and you have to give a file pointer. That's obvious. But if you want to use gets, what happens? Gets is reading the data from what? Gets is reading the data from your keyboard, right? So in gets, you don't know how many values you will be reading. So that's how gets has been designed. It just asks. So first of all, for gets, you don't have to give stdin, because that is implicit. That means one parameter is gone directly, right? You don't have to say stdin. It's by default. Then second parameter, which is the size, you don't need that size, because do you give a size in scanf %s? You don't give it, right? Similar to that, in gets, you don't need a size. You are just reading things from your keyboard. That's why you don't need a size. But fgets need a size, because fgets may you have to say how many characters you want to read from the keyboard, from the file. That's the way it has been designed. I mean, we can't do anything about that. We cannot skip a parameter and say it is going to work. No, it's not going to work. You have to give that parameter as it is. You have to give a number there, which is how many characters to read from the file. And then you have to give a file pointer at the end. That's the syntax of fgets. You cannot change this, right? Can we append to an empty file? Yes, you can open an empty file and append it. You just see, the first time when you say append here, right? Let's say my file is not even there. When you say an append, first of all, my file will be created, and then whatever things you are writing, it will go there. That means you are writing to an empty file, right? Okay, so that's fgets. Okay, so let me come to something called end of file. Okay, so fgets is fine. What does fgets allow you to do? Fgets lets you read all the characters that is there on your file, right? I mean, you can set actually the length of the file. I mean, length of the how many characters you want to read. But then let's say we want to use scanf to do this reading. We don't want to use fgets. We want to use scanf only. I mean, fscanf, sorry. So the problem with fscanf, what is the problem? The problem is it never goes beyond one. It never goes beyond it never goes beyond one string, right? The moment it sees a space, that's it. That's the end of scanf. It does not go anywhere after that. Yes, the moment it sees a hello, it's done. It's not going to go anywhere. But what if I have to read all the strings that are there in the scanf? So that means I have to repeatedly call on scanf, right? Until what? Until I reach the end of the file. What is the end of the file? End of the file is a very special character which is stored at the end. I don't know what that character is, but then you just use this function which detects have you seen that thing yet? As in, have you reached to that character yet? Why I don't know what the character is? Because every operating system has their own end of file characters. I think Linux uses \0 or something like that. Yeah, I think it's \0. But Windows uses some other end of files. So, and you don't know what that end of file character is, right? So that's why you have to use one function called feof.
Sir, I think, but the null character is same for all the strings.
Dude, I'm not talking about strings here. I'm talking about how you end a file. Ending a file and ending a strings are different, right? File is a special object, isn't it? File is a special thing. I mean, there has to be a special character which would mark the end of a file. End of a string is something different, right? End of a string is something, do you think file and strings are the same?
Sir, but what file stores is ultimately a string, right?
Exactly, let it be. So a string is the individual characters and file is not storing things as a string. So don't confuse there. File is whenever you are doing this write operation on the file as is in a string, file is storing character by character, that's all. Even the \0 will be stored as a character. File does not see a string as a string. File sees a string as a string of characters, that's all. If I write hello, it sees HELLO and followed by a space. It does not know the construct called string. Right? Yeah.
So, but if there is a \0 character, it means that nothing will be printed after that, right?
That is with respect to a string. When you read that thing on your from that file to your, that is, for example, this, right? When you say fscanf percentile as array, right? And then when you are reading that those characters off from the file, then that \0 comes and gets stored here. But then inside the file, that \0.
I just lost it at a place. So while we are using scanf, how does fscanf, I mean, how does the string get actually terminated? How does the string get that this end? How do we?
Okay. When you are typing things from your keyboard, how did the string terminate?
With a new line character.
With a white space or a new line character, right?
Yes, sir.
You agree on this, right? Whenever you're typing things from your keyboard, it got terminated by a white space or a \n.
Yes, sir.
Did you put the \0 character on the terminal? Did you write the \0 on your keyboard for it to end the string? Did you do that? You didn't do that, right? Who put the \0 character on the string?
Scanf itself.
Yeah, so this is what is happening here also.
Yeah, I got it. Sir.
See, that's why I told you, man, keep this picture clear. The way you behave with standard input with scanf, exactly the similar behavior is with respect to your files also. The only thing there is, the only difference is it's a file and the data is already there. That's the only difference. When you did it from stdin, the data is not there. You are writing the data from the keyboard. You are sending it from the keyboard. For the file, the data is already there and it's laid out. That's it. Apart from that, scanf will behave. Scanf does not even know actually from where it is coming. Scanf just reads the input based on whatever pointer it has been given. I mean, if it has been given stdin, it reads the data from the keyboard because it just views the buffer, right? That's all. For files, that buffer will be filled with the file data and scanf will read that. For stdin, the buffer will be filled with keyboard data and the scanf will read that from the buffer. That's it. Okay. So I think your doubt is clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay. So now, so I want to repeat it. I want to use scanf repeatedly on whatever data is there on my file till I reach that special thing which says end of the file. But I generally don't know what is the end of the file. I mean, that character, what is there. So that's why it's always safe to use a function called feof. So what does feof do? feof says feof. Yeah. So how do you read contents from a file? So whatever file pointer you have, right, fp. So what is happening is that whatever data you have on your file, first what happens, that data gets mapped to that buffer in your memory, right? In that mailbox in your memory, which with respects to that file. But maybe not the entire file, because you might have files worth of GBs, right? So you cannot map the entire file. Maybe you just map a certain portion of that file into that mailbox. And what will happen is the file pointer fp will just read all the bytes, right? One after another. That means the file pointer is actually, it's like traversing inside the file. It's moving inside the file, which is the buffer actually, where the file is mapped to. All right. So that means there is movement of the file pointer happening inside that file. Not inside the file, inside the buffer mapped to that file. So during this movement, so if fp comes to the end of the file, so this function helps you track that. Has fp reached the end of the file during its traversal? If it has reached the end of the file, that means it's time for you to say my entire file has been read, and then I have read the entire data, and you did whatever you wanted to do with the data. You are done with reading all the data from the keyboard from that file. And feof helps you detect that. How it operates, it reads the current file pointer and sees in what position fp is inside that buffer, and sees if that position is the end of the file. If it is yes, then this file pointer returns, I think it returns 1. and if it is no, it returns 0. Yeah. So if it is, if it has reached the end of the file, this thing will give you a 1. That is a positive value. If it has not reached the end of the file, it will give you a 0. That is, it is still in between the file somewhere. So now we could actually use this logic and read all the thing that is there in the file, all the text that is there in the file, using repeated invocations of fscanf. So how do I do that? I just say while okay, let me just do this. While FUF is not equal to what? What should be this? Tell me, guys.
1.
Yes. See, I read everything, right? So that's why I never bother about finding the actual end of the file, I mean, actual value of the character repressed. Because if you want to say, I will read character by character and try to match the character if it is end of the file, no, don't do that, because that value can change from system to system. That's why it's always safe to use FUF. Always use this function to detect the end of the file. And until and unless it reaches the end of the file, you can keep on invoking the fscanfs or whatever the read function is on that file till it reaches. The moment it reaches the end of the file, it will come out. Yes, exactly. So is this concept clear, guys? So this is the standard loop which you will always use to operate with files most of the time. These two functions could change. I mean, there are other functions actually. Instead of fscanf and fprintf, there are a list of functions. I mean, if you can see this list here, yeah, if you see this list here, right, there is fprintf, fscanf, there is fputc, getc, puts, gets, fwrite, fread. So there is this list of functions which you can use, which does the similar thing. Actually, you can just read the syntax of this functions from the book. So I just explained you fprintf and fscanf. So this is the standard loop which you always end up using while FUF and do some file operations inside the loop till you reach the end of the file. Okay, so let me just give you a very brief example here, show you very brief. So till now, what have you done? We have stored, what did you do? We have stored strings, right, in my file.txt. Let us do one thing. Okay, so I have a list of numbers now. Can someone tell me how do I read this list of numbers? I have a file called numbers.txt. How do I read this file?
Should we change the format specifier, sir?
First, you have to change the name, right?
Yes, sir.
Numbers, yeah. So in what mode would you open the file? Read mode, right? That's it. That's the only thing you have to do. And %d and num. So now every time your fscanf would read a number from the file and then store it in num. Now if you just do %d, it will read all these numbers. So now think of this as your buffer, the way we were discussing standard scanf buffers, right? So now this is your buffer. This buffer is all these numbers, and we want fscanf to read numbers now one at a time. So it will read all these numbers one at a time. See, it read all the numbers. Yeah, you are correct, fscanf. Good. So now just imagine the things that you can do with this concept, right? Now let's do one very small example, and after that I will end this lecture. I don't want to stretch it today. Okay, yeah, that's a very basic thing actually. See, yeah, I'll explain that why I got 2/16. So if someone noticed, good that you noticed. So that means you're not sleeping, good. So what is happening is there is only 116 in my input, right? So if you see this, sorry, what was my file? My file was number.txt, right? There is only 116 here, but then I actually saw 216s here.
So is it because num is already 16 and when it will printf once more because num is already 16?
Exactly, you are 95% right. I'll explain that way. See, let's say you are at the final iteration, right? Final iteration when it read 16. So yeah, so you read 16 here, right? And then you printed here 16. That means num just got the value of 16 in this iteration and you printed it. Now when you come here, right, when you printed here, was that the end of the file? That was not the end of the file, because your FP has to at least move past the 16, right? Then only it knows, acha, there is this special character located after 16. You understand what I'm trying to say? So there is this stone here, right? So you have a list, you have stones here and you're walking on one stone at a time. So now you are on stone number 16. That is the last stone, right? And then you have just printed it here. So then you come back to this loop here and then you say, okay, I have just landed on stone 16. I'm fine. That means it might not be the end of the file, right? Because I don't know if there is one more stone after that. I don't know that until and unless I put my feet there, I cannot say there is a stone there or not. So that's why now I am at the end, and then I go to the empty space now where there is no stone, and then I still come to fscanf, but fscanf will not be true now in this case. That is, fscanf will not get any data. But then num is already initialized, right, to 16. That's why num got printed once more. And then now when I come to this iteration again, I see, okay, last time I have stepped on an empty stone, that empty space where there is no stone, which means I have reached the end of the file and it's time for me to exit the loop. So how are we incrementing the file pointer? File pointer, I don't know that actually. There's a lot of details there. I don't know actually how it is. I have to read it. But just imagine somehow it's getting incremented and you're able to read your data. That's it. Don't think it will be incremented based on the pointer arithmetic that we have done. That is, it will be incremented by a character or a integer size. I don't know that yet, because it's not, don't think of it as a pointer in that pointer arithmetic way. As in when you do a p++, you move ahead characters based on if it is a character or an integer. It's nothing like that. The OS has this, it's a OS specific implementation actually, how the file pointer moves inside your files buffer. So let's not go there. It will be a lot of details. I also have to read up on this. I have forgotten this. Okay, so there is a bug in this problem here. How to fix this bug? How to fix this? You just say, what is the return from fscanf, right? That's it. See, now only once it will be printed. Do you guys see how I fixed the bug here? Because at the end of the last iteration, fscanf is not going to work, right? Because I stepped on an empty space where there is no stone. So fscanf is going to return me -1. So in that case, I don't do the printf. Good. Okay, so last example for today. So we are done then after this. Guys, I don't think so I'll be able to cover malloc because it's 11:16. Or not malloc as in dynamic memory allocation. If there are mixed integer characters in a file, yeah. Good. Okay, that's a valid question again. See, So someone is asking how to read. I gave you such a good example with the stones and you didn't understand it yet. Yes. When you are moving one stone at a time, and you are on the stone, you have stepped on the stone 16. You cannot see one step ahead, right? You have landed on the stone 16. You have to go one more iteration now to see if there is something beyond this. How are you when you are at stones, when you are at the last position on the, not the last, when you are at the position 16, that is the one step before the EOF, right? There is no way for you to tell, right, what is beyond that second last thing. You have to actually be in the EOF position, right? Then only you can say I have seen an EOF. That's why you have to go one more. You have to go one more iteration into the loop, and then only when you have actually landed on the EOF, then you can say I have seen an EOF. When you are at 16, how can you say you will be seeing an EOF or not? Because you can't see into the future, right? Did you get it? Yes.
Yes.
Can't character accept single digit too? Yes, character will accept single digit. In what context are you talking? Okay, anyways. Okay, so when you have mixed files, so what would happen is you would have a list of characters as well as a numbers, right? So what you can do is you can read the entire thing as characters and read the entire string, entire file as a list of characters. And then you have to do the conversion manually. So if you see a number, if you see a value, let's say if you see a digit, then you have to convert that to digit. And if you see an alphabet, let it be as it is because you have written it as a character. But because see, when you have a mixed file, you don't know in what position you have a character, in what position you have you have an alphabet, right? You don't know that. It can be anywhere. So if you would have known that position, how you could have done is you could have read it once, and then you could have read it scanf percentile s using for strings once, and then you could again read whatever is left. You can say scanf percentile d for numbers. When you have a special format for the file, let's say you have the special format, right? Generally, it will not be any random thing. I mean, you shouldn't work with random format files. So let's say you have a nice formatted file here, and then you say name, as in you say my name, and let's say you say my roll number, right? Something like this. And then again, you have someone else name, someone other's name, and then you say this. Sorry. And then you say one more roll number, let's say, right? So what do you do now? So inside your file, how would you read it is, I'm writing here only. Yeah. So you will just say scanf, then you say percentile s, then you say percentile d. I mean, then you could read all the lines of then you could just say, this will go to my name will go to that variable, string variable, and d will go to the integer variable. This is when you have a format of a file. If you don't have a format, then the only thing that you can do is read everything by character wise, and then convert the integer numbers to actual numbers. I mean, the character which are numbers to actual numbers, and the characters to leave it as a character. Is this clear? Yeah. So that's why it's good to work with formatted files. I mean, you cannot have any mixed format, right? Okay, last example for today. Yeah, I have this file now. How have I created this file? It's very simple. So let's say don't worry about how I've created this file, but this is a very big file. It has a lot of text inside it, right? So now what I want to do is I want to say how many A's I have, how many B's I have, how many capital A's, how many capital B's, how many capital C's I have in this file. I want to maintain this is called a histogram. As in, I want to say I have 5 A's, 6 B's, 7 C's, 11 D's. I want to count that. So how do I do that? So this is a program to do that. I am not typing the program. Yeah. So just see this. So just everyone just see this program and tell me if there is any doubt now in this program. Just read this program. There should not be any issues here.
So what is CSV?
CSV is a file format. Yeah. Forget it. You could just put it as text. No issues. Yeah. So just read this program quickly and then you'll understand it. Open the file called input.txt as in a read mode. I want to write the histogram, that is output. How many A's, how many B's to a file called output.txt. Right? And then first I have created an integer array histogram, and then I do the loop now. I want to iterate on the entire file. And then I say fscanf, file pointer. I am reading character by character. %C character. And whatever character I have got, I go to that place in the array and increment it. For example, if the character would have read a capital A, I would have gone to position 65 in my histogram, 65, and then incremented that position. Right?
Sir,
Yes.
don't we have the same bug as last time here?
I have, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's fine. I mean, I didn't worry much about this. Fix this, right?
So,
Yes.
so can't we fix it by using an infinite while loop while one and then checking by if condition inside it, and then we will break if it is.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. That's also fine. Savak is asking what is the point of UF if you are using if to break inside.
So,
Sometimes what happens is fscanf might give you a negative value because the output is, let's say you are trying to do fscanf %s as in a string you are trying to read, right? And then maybe that input that is there in the file is not formatted correctly and you are not able to read the string. Then also you'll get a -1. But then you are not in the end of the file, right? You're not in the end of the file yet.
so I will use EOF in the if condition itself.
Yes, you can do that. I mean, try all these things, man. It's not an issue. Yeah, he wants to say you'll want to use this, right?
Yes.
No, not this EOF capital.
But so what I'm saying is, for example, if X will be will not satisfy the if condition when FU of F is satisfied, right? Means when the while loop is going to break, if is also going to break.
Yes. Yeah.
It also might break in additional scenarios, but it will always break in the conditions when FUF breaks. So,
Yes.
I mean, isn't FUF then redundant, sir? I mean, if we were to just place the if statement inside, that would be enough.
If statement with what? X greater than 0 condition or if FOF condition?
I mean, in this case, if we were to use it like this, X more than 0, then I think this would not require.
That's why I'm telling you, your file might be storing something because of which fscanf was not able to read that particular
thing. I'm saying is, in that case, FUF still does nothing, sir. I mean, in that case, the loop will break because if has a bit of higher priorities. I mean, what I'm saying is, even in that cases, FUF will be useless. If will break the loop anyway, right? And in cases when the while condition is not satisfied, if will still not be satisfied.
I am confused, guy. Tell me, what do you want to put here? Tell me the program and then only I'll understand it now. What do you want to put here? If you want to do this, is it?
No, sir, I was just saying, okay. Wait. No. So I was saying that the second condition, if X is more than 0 and then a break statement,
yes,
would include the scenarios where FUF will not be satisfied, right, sir?
Yes. That means you could break in between the file also when there is something else to be read.
Yeah, I understand, sir. But even in that case, the FUF will be doing nothing, right? I mean, FUF can't stop the breaking of the loop. The loop will break regardless. What I'm supposed to say, there are two cases. One case is when the file is ended and FUF is 1. Even in that case, if will already break, right? The loop will be broken by if. And then there's a second scenario where fscanf returns -1, right? Even in that case, if will break. So I'm saying is, sir, if will break in both the cases.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's wrong, right? That's why you don't put a break here. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't put a
Okay.
break in the if. So all that
Okay,
the if is doing is it is seeing if fscanf read a valid input, and then only you update your program.
okay, sir. Okay.
I am putting a filter here, right? So this is where I'm using the variable read. So
you're not breaking. Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. I thought you were breaking the loop. Sorry.
I did not write a break statement, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, sir.
Yeah. So this is like a filter which says this is a valid value which I read from the file and use this value in my program. If it is not valid, then go ahead in the file. If it is the end of the file, fine, just come out of it. Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, other than this, I think the program is clear, right? So you just say histogram ch and then do a plus plus. Why do I do a plus plus? Because I have initialized all the values to 0. And then the output, what do you do here? In the output, you just print only the capital letters. And the capital letters have what? They have the ASCII value starting from 65, right? All the way up to 65 plus 26. So I just did this in this loop. So if you run this file, so if you run this program, this is what will happen.
So what is the use of fclose?
Yes, I'll come to that. So if you just do this, see, output.txt. So you will see this now. There were 19 times. There were 19 A's, 4 B's, 13 C's, 13 D's. Now you have counted everything here. So this is called a histogram. Good. I think it's quite simple. Not an issue. Yeah. So now you could do all sort of things with files, guys. I mean, you could store 1,000 integers and then you read those 1,000 integers from the file, sort them up, and then write to a different file. So what is the point of fclose? So finally, this is the final function. So fclose clears the buffer that was there for the file. I mean, it just deletes that memory, whatever was there reserved for that file. Now you don't no longer need that mailbox. So that's one thing. Once you do an fclose, now if you try to again do an write after an fclose, you get an error because you have closed the mailbox. Now there is no communication happening. If you want to use fp0 again after fclose, you have to open the file again, and then only you could access the file. So fclose is like it kinds of deletes that whole buffer through which you were communicating with the file. So that's the first part which fclose does. What does it? What is the second function of fclose? Let's say you. So how does it happen basically? How does whenever you write something, first it goes to the mailbox, right? And from the mailbox it goes to the actual file. Mailbox meaning. So then let's say you have wrote something, and then whatever you write, that does not go to the file instantaneously. It stays in the buffer for some time. And when the buffer is like kind of filled with new data, then whatever the old data was there, that gets written to the file. So it operates in this blocked mode. Like it takes a block of data from the buffer, writes it to the file. Again, then that is one block is clear, and then it has space for a new block of data that is coming from your program. So what does fclose does is, other than closing the buffer, it also, whatever data is left in the buffer to be written to the file, it just flushes it out to the file so that nothing is left in the buffer. So always you should try to do an fclose. So fclose is like a safe way to say whatever is, if there is still data in the buffer to be written to my file, put that in the file first and then close the buffer or delete the buffer. Yeah, it flushes the buffer, exactly. Okay, so that's file IO, guys, for you. So what did we do? We did for file open, file EOF, fscanf, fprintf, and finally fclose. So these are the basic functions which you would need for most of the programs, like at least in this course. Sir, can we change the mode of the? Yeah, obviously you can change, man. You just have to go and change it here. These 3 modes that I spoke about, right? You just have to change it here. That's it.
No, sir. I mean, after we have declared this within the program.
Okay, you want to change it again, you mean? Then you have to open it again. So you have to open it twice. But generally you should not do that. You shouldn't open a buffer. You shouldn't open a file which is already opened. You should not do that. Never. You only open a file once. And then you operate with the file and close the file. These are like the safe ways of programming. If you open a buffer twice, you open a file twice, I mean, you could get unpredictable behavior. I don't know. So we have to close. Yeah, once you have closed, the buffer is deleted, then you have to open it again to get a new buffer, basically, to in a new memory space. Okay, fine. Last thing for today. Yeah, so file input output. So do you guys know about command line parameters? Have you heard this term before, or have sir spoken to you guys about this? Console parameters.
No, sir.
Command line parameters. No. Okay. Okay. So generally, if you want your program to read data from the command line. So in this context, what kind of data would you want from your command line? You would want to read the name of the file, right, on which you want to perform this operation. Let's say here I have manually inputted, right? Manually inputted the file name in my program. But what if I want to do the same operation, right? I want to count a histogram on different file. I cannot every time go inside the code and compile it and run it, right? I want to send just the name of the file from external to the program, and the program just opens up that file internally and does this operation there. So this is, to do this, I have to provide the name of the file during runtime. That is, as I am doing this, so I have to do something like this. As I am doing a \a.out, here I have to say the name of the file. And the program will simply open this file and do the operation, which is the histogram counting. So this kind of parameters, which you can supply your program during runtime. What do I mean by runtime? When you are actually running the program, then you are providing the parameter here. So these things are called command line parameters or runtime arguments. They all have different names actually. They are called parameters, command line arguments, runtime parameters, all this stuff. They are the same. During runtime, we are giving it a data to the program. So how do I do this? This is different from file input output. Is just like just a small point. So you just have to use this as it is. Just use these two things as it is, guys. Remember always these two things. So one is, there are two parameters that go. Now these parameters are a parameter to main, remember. Main is a very special function to us, right? Main is the thing from which everything starts. So if main has an argument or main has parameters, that means main is not called by any other function in your program, right? Main is called from your by the operating system when your program actually runs. That's why these parameters, these two things, capture the command line parameters that go inside your program. There are two types of parameters always for main when you want to send external parameters to your function. The first is an integer which says how many parameters are going inside main. It is just a count of the number of parameters that are going inside main. And this here holds the actual values. For example, if I run my program something like this, a.out, and then I say 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So how would the ARGC look? The ARGC value would be, can someone tell me what will be the value of ARGC? 4. And then these values 1, 2, 3, 4 will be stored something like this. ARGV 0 equals to, I think ARGV 0 stores the name of the program. Anyways, we'll find it out later. So yeah, so it's ARGV 1 will store 2, ARGV 2 will store 3, ARGV 3 will store 4. So this is how the command line parameters will be stored in these two parameters. The first will store the number, that is number of parameters which are following a.out, and then this ARGV array will hold the values 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this clear, guys? And you always have to use these two. I mean, the names could be different. You don't have to give the same names, ARGC or ARGV. You could use any name. But then that type of the parameter has to be the same always. The first is an integer and the second is a character pointer array. Right? Okay, good. So now let's put this theory to use. Okay. See, I have not done anything here basically. All that I have to make my program change. All that I have to change in my program, sorry, is I have to just include this definition here with me. That's all. For it to accept command line parameters. This definition here, I have put it in the chat. If you put this definition of main, that means main, now your program is ready to accept command line parameters. And how do I access the values? I access the values using ARGB, right? So that means instead of input here, I just say ARGB 0. This will give me the first, since I will be only using the one command line parameter, right? So that is fine. But before that, I want to just verify what is ARGB storing. So let me just comment everything out. And then I just want to say printf %s ARGB. Since it's a character pointer, so I have to use character strings. Okay. See, ARGB 0 does not give you the command line parameter. ARGB 0 gives you, yeah, I was correct here actually. So this is how it gets stored. ARGB 0 stores the name of the executable. So ARGB will store the a.out value here. It will store the name a.out. 1 will store 1, 2, 3. Okay, you guys might be confused here. So let me put some names here. So let's say A, let's say me, you, there, go. So these are the command line parameters that I have passed. So ARGB 0 will store the name of the executable. It will store a.out, the name. ARGB 1 will store me, 2 will store you, 3 will store there, and go. This is how it will be stored. So I think ARGC will be 5. Yeah, I don't know. It should not be 5 actually, because it does not count this thing as a parameter, right? It's just the name. That's all. ARGC counts from here actually. So I think it should be still 4, not 5. I mean, the name is stored in ARGB. I don't know why it's stored, but it's stored. But then the storage starts from 1 actually, not 0, because the 0 position in ARGB is reserved for storing the name of the executable. Okay, if you have checked it, then it's fine. I think it's 5 then. That's fine. 5 is because it is also storing the name of the executable inside ARGB. That's why it's 5. But the actual parameters are 4, not 5. Just keep reminding. Okay, since we have established that now, so all that we have to do is instead of ARGB 0, we have to use ARGB 1. That's all. That's it. Good. So now what can we do? Tell me. We just say GCC histogram. Yes. Okay, sorry. Now there will be segmentation fault. Why? Because I did not give it a parameter name. I did not give it an argument, right? So that means there is nothing in ARGB apart from the name of the executable, which is in ARGB 0. So I am trying to access ARGB 1 when there is nothing in ARGB 1. That's why I'm getting a segmentation fault. I have to actually give it a name now. So let me call it numbers.txt. Right? So did I get an output? See, I got an output. But then I am not getting the correct output. Why? Because I think I have to use a quotes. Is it? Oh, sorry, there is nothing there, right, in numbers.txt. I should have used input.txt. Do you guys see what I'm trying to do? Or are you guys exhausted? You guys are exhausted, I think. But I don't have time, guys. Anyways, let's leave it. So yeah, so just, I think you can read on command line parameters. Command line, I think you got the concept of command line parameters, right? Maybe you can try it as a homework. So how do you link the command line parameter with the file name? That's it. Yeah, let's not do this today. And yeah. Okay, then fine. So yeah, fine. File input output we have covered, and this basic file functions and fopen and fclose. So we'll be ending it today then.